I never thought much about missing person posters. They were everywhere, on telephone poles, grocery store bulletin boards, and gas station windows. Most people glanced at them for a second and moved on. I was no different until one evening after work when I stopped at a convenience store. Near the entrance, a faded missing person poster caught my attention. The photo showed a young man with dark hair, pale skin, and familiar eyes. At first I assumed it was just someone who resembled me, but the longer I stared, the colder I felt. The resemblance wasn't close, it was exact. The name was different, yet the face was mine. According to the poster, the man had disappeared in 1998, years before I should have even existed. That night, curiosity turned into obsession. I searched the man's name online and found archived news articles about his disappearance. There were more photographs, and every single one looked exactly like me. Same smile, same facial features, even the small scar above the eyebrow that I got when I fell off my bicycle as a child. Seeing that scar on a man who vanished before I was born sent a chill through me. Unable to sleep, I kept searching and eventually found another missing person from a different state. Then another. Then another. Different names, different lives, different decades. But every photograph showed my face staring back at me. Over the next several days, I built a collection of over 30 missing person cases dating back nearly 70 years. Some disappeared in the 1960s, some in the 1980s, and others much more recently. Their ages varied, their occupations varied, and they had no known connection to one another. Yet they all looked exactly like me. The deeper I dug, the stranger things became. It was as if the same person had been living different lives throughout history before vanishing without a trace each time. The discovery consumed my thoughts until I could focus on nothing else. Desperate for answers, I called my mother and started asking questions about my childhood and family history. At first, she seemed amused, but her tone changed when I mentioned the missing people. After a long silence, she reminded me that I had been adopted as an infant. I already knew that. What I didn't know was how unusual the circumstances had been. According to her, authorities found me abandoned near a highway rest stop with no identification, no records, and no clue where I had come from. The investigation had led nowhere. No parents were ever found, and eventually I was adopted. Hearing that only deepened the mystery surrounding my identity. A week later, I received an email from an unknown sender. There was no subject line and only a single sentence inside. Stop searching before they notice you. Attached to the message was a photograph of me leaving my apartment earlier that day. The picture had clearly been taken from across the street. Someone had been watching me. My hands shook as I stared at the image. I contacted the police, but by the time investigators attempted to trace the sender, the email account had vanished completely. Whoever sent it had covered their tracks perfectly. Instead of stopping, I became even more determined. I contacted relatives of some of the missing people. Most never replied, but a few shared disturbing stories. One woman said her brother became obsessed with old photographs before disappearing. Another family described strange phone calls their relative received shortly before vanishing. Several people mentioned recurring nightmares involving a long hallway lined with doors. The detail terrified me because I had been having the exact same dream for months. Every night I found myself standing in a corridor filled with endless doors stretching into darkness. Each door in the dream had a year carved into it. 1962, 1974, 1987, 1998. They matched the disappearance dates of the missing people I had researched. At the far end of the hallway stood a final door, marked with the current year. Every time I approached it, I woke up before reaching it. Meanwhile, strange things started happening in my waking life. Complete strangers called me by names I had never heard before. An elderly woman insisted she knew me decades ago. A hospital security guard swore he had spoken to me the previous day despite the fact that I had never been there. It felt as if reality itself was becoming unstable. Then a mysterious package arrived at my apartment. Inside were dozens of photographs showing the missing people. Each stood beside individuals whose faces had been scratched out. Written on the back of every photograph were the words, "Iteration failed." Beneath the stack was a map, with a location circled deep inside a remote forest. For 3 days I debated whether to go. Every instinct warned me not to. Yet the need for answers eventually won. Early one morning I drove toward the marked location. The map led me to a hidden clearing where an old concrete structure sat partially buried underground. Rust covered the entrance, and it looked abandoned for decades. Inside, dim emergency lights flickered weakly along narrow hallways. Dust covered everything, yet fresh footprints marked the floors. As I explored deeper, I discovered a room filled with filing cabinets. Most were empty, but one locked drawer contained dozens of folders. Each folder belonged to one of the missing people and identified them only as subjects rather than by name. Every file contained medical records, surveillance reports, and psychological evaluations. At the bottom of each report was a red stamp bearing a single word: terminated. My pulse raced as I continued reading. Then I found another cabinet containing a single folder labeled current subject. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside were photographs of me throughout my entire life. Childhood birthdays, school events, family vacations, moments that should have been private. Someone had been monitoring me since childhood. On the final page was a projected disappearance date only 4 days away. At that moment, I heard footsteps echoing somewhere down the hallway. They were slow, deliberate, and growing closer. I grabbed the folder and ran. When I glanced back, several figures emerged from the darkness. Their faces were hidden, but they moved with unnatural precision. I sprinted through the facility until I reached an old elevator. The doors closed just seconds before the figures could reach me. Somehow I escaped and made it back home with the stolen documents. Among the papers was a handwritten journal explaining the purpose of the facility. According to the author, scientists had attempted to achieve immortality by repeatedly copying a person's consciousness into genetically engineered duplicates. Every missing person was one of those duplicates. Whenever a subject began recovering memories from previous versions and started searching for answers, the experiment considered them a failure. They would disappear, and a new version would take their place. Reading those pages felt impossible, yet every detail matched what I had discovered. That night, I dreamed of the hallway again. This time I finally reached the last door. Beyond it was a room filled with mirrors. Each reflection showed a different version of me. Some were older, some younger, and some wore clothing from different decades. As I watched, one stepped forward from the mirror and whispered, "They're coming." I woke suddenly to loud knocking at my apartment door. The clock read 3:17 in the morning. When I opened the door, nobody was there. Only a photograph of me sleeping in my bed lay on the floor. Across the image were written 4 terrifying words: "You cannot escape." For the next 2 days, I fled from place to place, staying in cheap motels and constantly changing locations. No matter where I went, photographs and messages continued appearing. Worse still, my memories began changing. Events from childhood felt unfamiliar, while new memories surfaced that didn't belong to me. I remembered places I had never visited and conversations I had never had. Soon, I realized they weren't random. They belonged to the missing people. Somehow, fragments of their lives were becoming part of my own mind. On the 4th day, the predicted disappearance date arrived. Knowing they would come for me, I returned to the underground facility. Hidden beneath the lowest level, I discovered a sealed chamber. Inside stood a massive machine connected to rows of glass pods. Most were empty. One remained active. Floating inside was a man who looked exactly like me, only older. Tubes connected him to the machine while monitors displayed brain activity. Then his eyes opened. Through hidden speakers, the man explained everything. He was the original person from whom all the others had been copied. Decades earlier, he had volunteered for an experiment designed to defeat death. Every missing person had been another attempt to perfect the process. The organization behind the project had collapsed long ago, but automated systems continued operating. Whenever a subject became aware of the truth, the system removed them and created another version. According to him, there had been 43 versions before me. I demanded to know why he never stopped it. The original man's expression turned sad as he revealed the final secret. Every version eventually reached this chamber. Every version heard the same explanation, and every version faced the same choice. The machine didn't simply create copies, it transferred consciousness. To continue existing, one version always had to replace another. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The system had detected me. The original man said there was only one way to end the cycle forever: destroy the machine. As memories from dozens of lifetimes flooded my mind, I realized none of us had ever truly been free. We were trapped in an endless loop of lives and disappearances. As the facility shook around me, I overloaded the machine's core and ran. Behind me, sparks erupted and systems exploded. The original man's pod shattered. For a brief moment, our eyes met, and he smiled. Then a blinding flash consumed the chamber. When I finally woke up, I was lying alone in the forest. The facility was gone. Authorities later claimed nothing had ever existed there. Yet even now, months later, I sometimes stop when I see a missing person poster. Because last week I found a new one. Different city, different name. Missing only days earlier, but the face staring back at me was mine once again.